So this is your fourth video in our November series. So we're going to start standing, and stand with your feet just about hip width apart, and then just see how far you can take your pelvis from one side to the other. So just shift your pelvis from side to side, and then notice, is it just your pelvis moving, or is it your whole body going side to side? So can you keep your ribs still and just take your pelvis side to side? So we have done this before, but I want you to really focus on pushing your pelvis to one side and then pushing it to the other. So it's okay if your rib cage moves a little bit, but try and keep it fairly still. And then let's take our feet really wide and do the same here. Rib cage stays still. Can you slide your pelvis side to side? And again, we're trying to move the muscles of the waist. Obviously getting a little bit of a stretch on the inner thigh and the hip as well. Okay, so then let's keep the pelvis still and do your rib cage side to side. Try and keep your pelvis from shifting, and can you slide your rib cage? And again, you'll notice in here, is your body wanting to twist? Is it wanting to tip? And you're trying to just get that shift side to side. And it's kind of nice to do it with the legs wide as well, just to change it up a little bit. And can you feel here as you shift your ribcage side to side, movement through your torso, through your waist, and just see how that feels. It's just about moving all of the parts. Let's do the ribcage slide with our legs just about hip width apart. Just again, to change it up, we've changed our base of support, so see how it feels there. And remember, we've done this against the wall so that you can check that you aren't rib thrusting or twisting, so feel free to use the wall if that works for you. And now, keeping your pelvis super still, so imagine that you've kind of pinned your pelvis against the wall, so pelvis is going to stay super still. Can you do a little side bend, so moving just your upper body? And the other way, can you do a little side bend? So pelvis is pinned and we're just doing a little side bend, side to side. If you want to, you can take your arm up as well. Ribs stay down. Pelvis pinned. Little side bend. And then how about, still imagine that your pelvis is pinned, but can you round your spine forwards and then extend and lift it back? So rounding the spine forwards and extend it. So we're like cat-cow almost, but the pelvis stays still. We're extending that spine and then rounding forwards. Normally when we do these movements, we let the pelvis go with us as well. So when we extend, we let the pelvis tilt back, and when we round, the pelvis tucks under. But just seeing if you can isolate that movement just through your spine and keep the pelvis fairly still. So it might not be a very big movement at all, and that's fine. Again, we're just trying to move bits that perhaps don't otherwise move. Okay, and then keeping that pelvis still again, can you twist your upper body? So can you twist your upper body, come back through centre, and same on the other side. Still got that pelvis pinned, so he's not going anywhere. And we're just twisting the upper body. Just letting my arms just stay loose so that I can get that movement really through the upper body. So think about twisting from your belly button rather than thinking about twisting perhaps from your head or your shoulders. Just do one more to each side, and then we're going to come down onto the mat. Okay, so down onto the mat, you're going to need your half dome here. If you don't have a half dome, get like a rolled up mat or a rolled up towel. It's just something to give you a little bit of height, and it's quite useful to have a half dome because it's got like a rounded bottom, so something that gives that little rounded shape. And then we're going to sit on the half dome for your click clack. So we want our feet flat down on the floor, knees are bent. We're going to hold just below our knees, and then you're going to lean back until your arms are fully straight. And then we're going to keep the arms straight, and we're going to tilt the pelvis forwards and backwards. So it's just the pelvis that's tilting forwards and backwards, and you're trying not to have the rib cage lifted. So you don't want a huge amount of movement in the upper back. It's just that pelvis. So keep your arms straight, because if your arms are bending and your head and your chest are coming forwards, we've not got that pelvis movement. Ribs stay down. Think about steering with your feet. So as I'm tilting my pelvis back, I'm pushing my feet away from me, and then as I'm tilting my pelvis forwards, I'm pulling. So think about pushing and pulling from your feet, so they're not moving particularly, but you'll think about steering with your feet. And then can you find that work through the back of your thighs? Those hamstrings working, and that's your click clack. And it's great for mobilising your pelvis and obviously muscles of your lower back, which in turn are going to help to move your waist. Okay, so we're going to do a twist next. So I'm going to just turn to face you. So I'm still sitting on my little half dome. And have your feet in a position that works for you. So you can be cross-legged, you can be cobbler stretched. So just find where you can find that neutral pelvis. So have your hip bones level with your pubic bone so that you've not got your pelvis tilted in either direction. And then let's think about our alignment points that we've already been playing with. We've got that head ramp, we've got the ribs relaxed down, and we've got our pelvis in that neutral position, so we're really in good alignment here. We're going to take a breath in, and as we exhale, let's twist as far as you can, one way, and then let your arms come down, keep that head ramped, and just hold here for a couple of breaths. We're going to come back in through centre. Again, making sure we've not lost any of those alignment points. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, twist. Let your hands come down, and again take a couple of breaths here. So making sure that you aren't losing any of those points. Make sure you aren't lifting your ribs or thrusting your head forwards. And then just come back into centre. Just do one more to each side. And come back into centre. Okay. We're going to need a high bolster for this next exercise. So if you are in your living room, you might want to use your couch. If you've got a big stack of pillows or a bolster or blocks or whatever you've got, but give yourself a fairly high bolster. And I'm just going to build one now with some bits that I've got here. I haven't got a couch in here. Okay, so I've built myself up quite a big bolster here. Start off with a really high bolster, and then you can work your way down lower. So like I say, if you're near your couch, you can sit on the floor and lean up against your couch, and that's a really good place to start. So I'm going to sit with my back against the bolster and kind of allow myself to lie down here. And then I'm going to straighten out my legs and allow myself to just relax. Let everything be relaxed. I've got my feet about hip width apart, and I'm relaxing my ribs down. So I'm just going to hold here for a moment, and then I'm going to bring myself up to seated, but I'm going to bring myself up to seated by using my abdominal muscles, and I'm going to curl myself away from the bolster. So I'm going to think about the ribs pulling in, the abdominals pulling in, and I'm going to roll myself to seated. And I'm just going to roll myself back down. So we don't want to use our arms here to lift us up. We want to really work on using our abdominals. So again, it's not about hinging up. You don't want to be coming up from your hips like something rising from the crypt. You want to be rolling, curling your spine away. So we're going to have a little play with that. So just do a few of those. And notice if you are feeling like it's pulling in your hip flexors, so where the crease of your leg is, then change your leg position. Maybe kind of cross your legs a little bit, or perhaps one straight or one bent. Just giving the legs something else to do, and having the legs in a slightly different position will take off that temptation to bring the torso towards the legs by using your hip flexors. And then once you feel like, I've got that, I'm happy with that, maybe make your bolster a little bit smaller. There's absolutely no rush for this. And if you feel that you're working your abdominals with your really high bolster, then stay there. There's no need to go lower if it's challenging. Well, not challenging, but you can feel that it's working. So what you're looking for here, and feel free to keep going while I'm waffling, what you're looking for here is to make sure that you can roll yourself up to a seated position without bracing, without bulging, without bearing down. So that puts a lot of pressure obviously on your pelvic floor, but also puts a lot of pressure on your abdominal wall. And you also want to make sure that you aren't using momentum, so you're not flinging yourself up. And watch your breath. This time, as you come up, can you exhale all the way up? Let's try that one. Take a breath, and then when you're ready, you're going to exhale. And can you use your abdominals to bring you up? Roll yourself back down. And again, as you exhale, can you come up? Maybe have your hands on your abdominals. Take a breath. Exhale to come up. What do you feel in your abdominals? Keep playing with that. So if you feel as you're coming up that your abdominals push forwards, then it's too much. Get that higher bolster back, make it a little bit easier for you. But if your abdominals are kind of pulling in, or you can feel your abdominals reflexively working to lift you up, then you're doing it right. So those of you that have done Pilates will recognise the movement is the roll up, but it's really difficult to have the abdominal strength to roll yourself from a completely flat position to completely seated if you don't have the strength, if you don't have the flexibility, you don't have the mobility. And as we know, our bodies are so clever, and it will always find the path of least resistance and make it as easy as possible for you. Most people that I see doing a roll up are not doing an abdominal roll up. They're using their hip flexors, they're hinging up, they're throwing their abdominals under the bus, they're putting stress and strain on the pelvic floor. But it is a functional movement. So I'm not teaching you this to teach you the roll up, but you know yourself, when you get up on a morning and you get out of bed, most people will just roll themselves to seated. And you want to make sure that when you roll yourself to seated, that you have got the strength in your abdominals to be able to do that. Just do a couple more there. And this is a great way to build strength in your abdominals. If you don't feel that you're quite there yet and you're still working on it, this is a great way to do it. And you can make it as big or as small as you like. Okay, so let's go back into that bolstered position. So you're leaning against your bolster, whatever you've got, but make it active. So don't just flop. You're holding yourself here. So you're leaning, but there's still a little bit of work. You can kind of feel that you're holding yourself in your abdominals. And then from there, can you twist your body to one side? Can you come back into center? And can you twist to the other side? Come back into center, can you twist? And into center and twist. Keep going with that. Notice if you kind of have to come up to twist. You keep twisted in this kind of semi-reclined position. And maybe again, make your bolster a little bit smaller perhaps. Can you do it in this position from one side to the other side? Can you feel your abdominals working? One more to each side. And then roll yourself up. So they look like very little movements, but actually you're really working your deep core muscles there. So just pop your cushions to one side. We're going to use them again in a little while. From here we're going to go into our lunge. So find your lunge position. Now remember, for your lunge you can absolutely kneel on a cushion or a bolster if you need to. And then we're going to step one leg forwards. And we want to make sure that that foot isn't too close to us. It wants to be about 90 degrees. You want to make sure that your knee is kind of over your ankle, not over your foot. And then if you tuck your back toes under, it gives you a little bit more stability. From here we're going to find a neutral pelvis. So can you slightly tuck your tailbone? And you will feel a bit of a stretch through the front of that back hip. Notice here whether your hips are skewing. Can you get your hip bones level and keep that forward tuck of the pelvis, and maybe send the whole pelvis a little bit forwards. So let's just back that off. And again, can you keep that slight tuck of the tailbone and just take it slightly forwards. We're going to do one more like that, back off. And again, we're going to switch sides. So come to the other side. Again, make sure that your knee is over your ankle, tuck those back toes, slight tuck of the tailbone, and get your hip bones level. Can you send the whole thing forwards and back, again forwards and back. One more time like that. And then we're going to go back to our first side again. So if you prefer, if your foot is giving you some bother and it's cramping, you can rest on the top of your foot. It just makes it a little bit more wobbly, but do what you need to do. Find that neutral pelvis, make sure that your hip bones are level, and then we're just going to hold it here. Maybe a very slight forwards, just to get that stretch through the hip. We're going to bring our hands together in a prayer position. Let's check all of our alignment points. So wrap your head, drop your ribs, and make sure that your ribs are over your pelvis so you're not leaning forwards here. And then can you twist towards your bent leg? Come back in through centre. Can you twist? Let's exhale as we twist. Inhale, come back to centre. Let's do one more. Can you exhale as you twist? Come back in through centre. Okay, take your arms up overhead. Lift tall. Ramp your head, drop your ribs. Make sure that your rib cage is over your pelvis. Can you do a side bend towards the leg that's bent? And come back up. Again, lifting tall. Inhale, exhale, side bend. One more time. Inhale back to centre, lengthen, and exhale, side bend. Come back up, and let's do the same on the other side. Remember, you've always got the option of going against the wall. If you feel a little bit unsteady, you can be near a wall so that you can hold on. Alright, so find your neutral position. Hips are level, slight tuck of the tailbone, and just slightly shift forward so that we're opening out and feeling that really nice stretch on that hip. Bring your hands into prayer position, take a breath. Are you aligned? Chin, ribs, pelvis. Exhale. Inhale to come to centre. Exhale, twist. Inhale, centre. One more time. Twist. Come back in through centre. Arms up again. Check your alignment. Chin, chest and pelvis. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, side bend. Inhale to centre. Lengthen and over. One more time. And come in and off your knees and come on down to a seated position. So just find a comfortable seated position for you. You can sit on a bolster, sit on a cushion, whatever you need to. So we're going to do a few little seated movements next, and we're going to start with a tricep stretch. So we're going to take our arm up and then drop it down behind your head. Your other arm is going to come up and grab that elbow and guide it in. So we're pulling it in close to your ear and slightly pushing it back. Now what I want you to notice now is what's happened with your alignment. So has your head poked forwards? Can you ramp your head up? How about those ribs? Can you get those ribs to relax down? And are you on that neutral pelvis where your hip bones and pubic bone are on the same level and you're sitting on your sit bones? And if you aren't, grab a cushion and sit on that. From here, we're going to do a side bend. So we're going to inhale to lengthen. And as we exhale, we're going over into a side bend. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, let's go over to the other side. Side bend. Inhale, lengthen. Keep checking the head, ribs and pelvis. Over you go. And again, up and over. So notice, are you twisting here? Is it a pure side bend, or as you go over, is your body wanting to twist? Last one. And then we're going to release the arms. We're going to do the same on the other side. So I've got crossed legs, and I'm going to switch my legs over the other way. I'm going to take the other arm up and then drop it down behind your head. Your other arm is going to pull the elbow in towards you, push it slightly back. Ramp your head, drop your ribs and find that neutral pelvis. Take a breath. As you exhale, let's side bend again. Is it different now? Just notice, inhale, center, exhale, over. Inhale to center, find your length. We're going to do one more time on each side. And last one. And coming up. And lower your arms down. Let's just circle our shoulders. And reverse that circle. Gently turning your head side to side, just releasing any tension through your neck and shoulders. Okay, so we're going to stay in a seated position. Again, whatever works for you. And we're going to take it into a side bend again, but this time we're going to bring one arm down onto the floor. We're going to reach that other arm up towards the ceiling, check chin, chest and pelvis, lengthen and take it over into a side bend. So this supporting arm can bend, making sure again that we've gone over into a side bend. So we want to keep this sit bone anchored into the floor and then reaching with the other arm. So we're creating an opposition stretch. One bit going one way and the other bit going the other way. And then just hold here for a couple of breaths. And then we're going to switch and do the same on the other side. So kind of windmill your arms. Chin, chest, pelvis, lengthen and over. Hold for a couple of breaths. Notice if your body's doing any kind of compensations. Sit bone anchored. Arm is reaching. Get that opposition stretch. Feel that length down your side. And then let's go over to that first side again, same thing. Now this time we're going to add a little bit of rotation. So we're going to keep the pelvis anchored, but we're going to rotate through the rib cage to look down towards the floor. And we're going to bend this top arm to support your head with your hand. So we've twisted now, we're in a little bit of a side bend, and then we've twisted, hold. Come back into your side bend position. And we're going to twist the other way, so we're going to look up towards the ceiling, supporting your head and your hand, twist. Can you shine your chest on the ceiling, let your head rest in your hand. Come back into your side bend position, reach that arm long and come up and out. We're going to do the same on the other side, so get your side bend first. We're going to twist to look down towards the floor and that top arm is going to come behind your head. We've still got our sit bones anchored, we're in a side bend and then we've twisted. Remember, you're only doing what feels right for you. If this bothers you in any way, stick with the side bend. Come back through centre and again we're going to twist the other way and you shine your chest on the ceiling, let your head be supported in your hand. Couple of breaths here. back in through centre. We're going to reach that arm long and come up and out of that one. So grab yourself a couple of cushions now, or a bolster, whatever you've got. You're going to like this bit, I promise. So a couple of big cushions maybe, or something to give you a little bit of height. And then we're going to sit. We're going to have the cushions or the bolster pull right in against your hip. And then we're going to have the knees bent to the other side. So you can kind of play around with this position a little bit. I would have some space between your knees. You can kind of have that 90-90 leg position if you want to. I'm just going to have both knees to one side with some space in between. We're going to find that lift and that length. Pull these cushions right in towards you, and we're going to twist our body to look towards your cushions. Can you bring your arms down? Keep thinking about lengthening your body, and can you start to lower your chest down towards the cushions? And you can have your bolster as high as you like, but you've twisted your upper body, and then you're going to relax down and take some deep breaths. I'm going to show you how that looks with a slightly higher bolster. You're just going to stay there. If you feel that you need a higher bolster though, feel free to grab yourself a little bit more. So with that slightly higher bolster, again, pull it into your hips. Get that lift and that length. We're going to twist our upper body, and then you're going to lower your body down onto your bolsters. So we're in like a twist, but a supported twist, and then you can rest your head down and relax. Don't get enough time or enough permission to relax. Take some deep breaths. So play around with this. You can play around with the height of it. And to begin with, it's just playing with the position, seeing how it feels, trying to make it, as relaxing as comfortable as possible, because you won't be able to relax. If you're trying to get down too low, it might be just too much, and you might just be like, I can't really breathe here, and it's just really not very comfortable. So that's not appropriate for you. So just kind of play with height. If you don't have lots of cushions, double over what you've got. Just kind of improvise. And eventually, what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep your pelvis facing forward, rotate your upper body away, and then have that supported. But to begin with, don't worry too much if your pelvis goes. Mine goes a little bit. But we know eventually that we're trying to get them to kind of twist away from each other. Yeah? So feel free to play with that. Let's do the same on the other side. Let's have a look and see how it is on the other side. I'm going to go super high. Is my bolster on this side? Pull it in. And again, get that lift and that length. And then twist your upper body. And then can you lower your upper body down? So to begin with, like I said, don't worry if your pelvis wants to twist a little bit, because it takes a while to get enough flexibility in your waist. So you could allow your pelvis to go, get yourself comfortable, and then think about, can I keep my chest down, but can I start to twist my pelvis back? And take some deep breaths. So if you have perhaps a bolster, you can do this with a bolster. Again, you're just pulling it right in against your hip, twisting your body, and then lowering yourself down onto a bolster. Again, you might want to have a cushion on top of your bolster. But just play with this. This is another release position for you, and it's a nice position to get in. Again, perhaps when you're watching TV of an evening, you could read, you could listen to some music, you could meditate. Just find yourself a position that's super, super comfortable, and take some time just for you to relax. Thank you.